Welcome to the Courage Project. We are Cathy, Carol and Niamh, and we are the Courage Project team, and we're deeply curious about courage, what it is, how to access it, how it shows up. We're on a quest to highlight where and how courage shows up in everyday work and life. So today we'd like to talk about a particular person. Her name is Bishop Mariann Budde. And we all listened to an interview that she did on the We Can Do Hard Things podcast with Glennon Doyle. And we were just so incredibly moved by Mariann's story, and in particular by a particular event where we feel she really showed courageous action. So we're going to just play a little clip to get us started here.
Yeah, and this clip is probably about 8 minutes long or something, so we're going to listen, and we also have the benefit of some of the non-verbal cues here from Trump and others in the audience as they're listening as well. So, and then after that we'll just kind of have a chat about it. So here we go.
Let me make one final plea, Mr. President. Millions have put their trust in you, and as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation. But the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, wadara, and temples. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution in their own lands to find compassion and welcome here. Our God teaches us that we are to be merciful to the stranger, for we were all once strangers in this land. May God grant us the strength and courage to honor the dignity of every human being, to speak the truth to one another in love, and walk humbly with each other and our God for the good of all people in this nation and the world.
Ooh, I still remember the first time that I saw that, and how powerful it was, and how incredibly brave and courageous I thought it was for her to use that moment to deliver that message. So let's look at this. So we are the Courage Project. We're all about courage. So, we see every so often we see something like this on the global stage of someone really stepping up courageously. What do you think, Cathy?
Yeah, so I remember hearing it for the first time as well, and I had shivers listening to it. I thought she was absolutely incredible. A couple of things that struck me, I suppose, just on the face of it, before getting into any of the detail, is that her voice, you can hear a tremble in her voice. I'm sure she speaks publicly quite a bit. It's part of her job. It's not the first time that she's stood up on that stage, to deliver a message, but you can hear the kind of the shake, the quiver. So it's not that she's She's not nervous. She's not scared. You know, it took a lot to do that in that moment. And so that was one of the first things that kind of struck me. I was like, oh Jesus, like this is hard. Like it's really hard.
Yeah, it's that vulnerability piece, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you can't have courage without fear. They're two sides of the same coin. Yeah,
absolutely.
I think it actually almost adds to the power of the message, is that you can see that you can hear it, and then when we have the visuals as well, you can see.
Yeah, and I think like we can get into kind of what it's so interesting hear her talk about it and her thought process around leading up to that moment, and you know what I suppose compelled her to kind of take the opportunity. But it is just so striking that it's such a serene moment. It's not boisterous, it's not loud, it's so powerful. So powerful.
There's something about that in the environment of a church service as well, where, you know, I grew up Catholic. I remember kind of spending time in church. It's a one-way broadcast communication space, and we have so few of those now where the audience just doesn't really give much feedback. I think it was probably divided in two. There were probably the people who disagreed with it, and their silence was a mark of disagreement, and then there were the people who were just stunned that this was actually being said, that someone had the courage and had the strength to kind of stand up and put herself in that position.
You're so right. I love that observation, because normally there'd be a live feed stream somewhere, emojis popping up, reactions, tweets, whatever. None of that was happening. And actually, it's always like the whole world stood still for a moment and actually heard this message. I think when anybody communicates, there's a difference between message sent and message received, or message delivered. And I think actually without the distraction of technology, and again, perhaps we're biased because we really resonated with that message, but I feel that it landed in a very different, sacred kind of way, as you said, like in the scene of the church. How interesting.
How do you think, I'm really interested kind of exploring, how did she do this? Like so Cathy, you said that, you know, it was visible that she was nervous. I think Niamh as well, when we were talking beforehand, you noted that she paused before she kind of stepped into that part of her speech. There was a visible change in her demeanor at the very beginning of that piece that we just saw. So she knew that this was a moment. How did she do this? Like what did she draw on?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, what's interesting about this is, like, we're talking about someone who's very purpose-led, right? Clearly that's she's been called to a particular vocation, and that is at the core of everything that she does, you know. So obviously there's a large part of that, and I think she says something like, when she's asked about that, she's like, well, I don't feel like I have a choice. You know, I'm speaking on behalf of people who are not included. I'm speaking on, and this isn't in the abstract for me. She's like, these are people who are in my congregation that aren't being included or who are being villainized. So I think there's just such a strong sense of purpose. And she talks about the how and the why. So this is her why, you know. She's really, really connected to that. And yeah, she felt like she had no choice in that moment. That, you know, given that opportunity. I thought what was interesting, actually, she said, like, even though she stands, you know, in front of a congregation regularly, she's like, it's not part of my day job to speak to powerful people like this, right? So this was, she's like, I've had the opportunity before, but it's not a regular occurrence, you know? So this was a big thing. Obviously, it was a huge thing, right? It's the inauguration kind of service. It was a huge thing. And suppose even though she felt like she didn't have a choice, she did make a choice, and she took. There were people who went before her the day before who made different choices, and she made a choice.
Yeah, she talks about that. The other members of the clergy or leadership within the church were kind of almost fawning, fight, freeze, fawn. They were fawning. They were kind of just, oh yes, you have been bestowed by God to take on this role. So I love that you used one of our 4 pillars of the courage compass, Cathy, purpose. So she was really purpose-led. And then something else that I noted, which very interestingly was different when we had the visuals of watching it on YouTube versus listening to it over audio, was presence is such a big piece of, one of the anchors of courage. And sometimes we need to tell our body to be courageous, shoulders back, present courageously in order to be courageous. But what I found really interesting was I listened to it only on audio until now, watching it with you. And of course, my eyeballs were darting back and forth between Trump and who he was sitting beside, and their reactions and their micro expressions as well. But you could see her micro expressions. And this is where, when it comes down to it, we're all animal creatures who there's the predator prey dynamic. As one speaker in front of an audience, you're thinking, okay, am I the predator able to hold ground here with power, or am I the prey? And you're looking at 1,000 eyeballs. That's 2,000 eyeballs, because there are 1,000 people in that room that are looking at you. So you could see these little giveaways of, there was an inhale and kind of like of her breath. And when we listen more to her talk about that experience, she says it was like jumping off a diving board. And it's that moment, such a good example, isn't it? Because right before you jump, or if anybody's done skydiving, which I certainly have not, that moment where you're like, you did it twice. Oh my God.
Yeah, I've done 2 bungees and 2 skydives. Back in my younger days, Niamh, I don't know if I'd be able for it now.
Okay, well, tell us. Okay, first I'll give that quick context, but tell us what that was like, because she literally says you get to the end of the diving board, and what are you going to do? The only other option is to walk backwards off it and get down. And she was like, so in that moment, because you can tell, I think her sermon up until that point had been neutral, and then she's like, let me dial up and challenge here.
She had talked about it was the story of unity, so but in a very kind of general way. And this was the one where you can almost she kind of goes, right, here we go. She does that.
It's incredible, isn't it, to think that courage, we think of courage as something kind of sustained and something that's effortful, but actually courage can be just that split second. So for example, with the skydive or the bungee jump, I mean, it's easy to within reason, to put on all the gear and get harnessed in and everything, but that step, and actually in the skydive I found it easier because it was a tandem dive, so actually they just kind of say, are you ready? And then you don't actually make the leap in that situation. But in the bungee, you do have to make the leap. And it really is, certainly for me, and I think for a lot of people doing a bungee jump, you'll try a few times and fail to make that leap. And then the last time you do it, you will have that split second of bravery and then realize, oh God, what have I just done? And try to go back, but it's too late to go back. So you're in free fall. So it's interesting to think of it in that context of, actually it really is just that split second to take the leap, and then you're in free fall, and you're doing it, and you're having the thrill and the excitement of it, and having the influence that you want.
But you also have gravity on your side, and there absolutely is no stumbling over your words, wondering if the net is there to catch you. You've literally got armor on. And if we look at those 1,000 people in that congregation, she didn't actually necessarily know, are there supporters here? But she did say, out of all those 1,000 people, there had to be at least a percentage of transgender folk, or people who had siblings, family members who were transgender, and certainly queer. So But I think it's a really interesting analogy. It's like, you know, they say jump and the net will appear, but what if there was no net? And she didn't have the, you know, somebody up on the plane or anything like that.
And again, it's that deep, deep sense of purpose. And we talked about it in relation to Mary Robinson as well in our last episode, that deep sense of purpose that sustains you in those moments where you feel that maybe the net isn't there, but maybe you don't need the net because you're so grounded in your purpose. I thought it was really interesting in her conversation with Glennon Doyle that Glennon, obviously, like all of us, saw that, and in real Glennon style, she was like straight away going, how can I learn to be like this woman? She's so brave, she's so courageous. So she Googled her and found out that she has a book coming out. She has a book coming out, I think it's out now, called How to Be Brave. So interestingly, we can actually read Mariann Budde's writing on how to be brave. And I think, you know, she talks about courageous leadership as a sustained practice. So it's very often we think of these courageous moments, and that's what we see, but actually it really is. And she has, you know, when I looked at her bio, and there have been moments where she has come to some prominence. So probably should have given a little bit of background about her and who she is. So she is the first female Bishop of Washington, and she has served as the Bishop of Washington Diocese since 2011, so a very kind of prominent role. So even there, you know, a pioneer as a woman in that organization. In 2020, you might remember there was a protest outside the White House in Lafayette Square, and the authorities came under some scrutiny because they cleared some peaceful protesters from St. John's Church, which is just right there near the White House, and they cleared the square. And then Donald Trump came over and took a picture of, I think that there had been some damage done to this little church. He took a picture outside the church with the Bible. Apparently he was there for all of about 3 minutes, and then he went back into the White House. But she actually spoke out at that point as well, and criticized him for using the church and the Bible as a prop, and that, you know, he didn't go into the prop or go into the church and say a prayer about what was happening, or he didn't, you know, read the Bible or pick a verse or anything like that. He kind of just used it as the backdrop. So she would have kind of been, this wasn't kind of her first time speaking out, and that's important as well, that, you know, not all of us can kind of stand up to Trump as our first courageous act. You know, we need to practice this. We need to sustain these habits of courage over time.
Yeah, the way she talks about that is, she says you have long seasons of preparation, and within that, so you might think nothing's happening, but you're failing a lot, you're learning a lot, and it's when those, you know, and it didn't kill you jumped off, it didn't kill you, there wasn't a safety net, but you survived, you picked yourself up again. And so it's all of that then, when there is a moment, and it mightn't be as big as that, but when these moments come, that you're able to lean back and go, well, yeah, I've done hard things, to take their podcast name. I have done hard things, and I'm okay, and I'll be okay through this as well. But I really liked that, the preparation part of it. Whether it's an intentional thing or not, right? But I think you can take something from that. Like you can prepare to be courageous. You know? And I think that's probably, you know, a growth mindset and all that kind of stuff feeds in there. But, you know, what are you learning from the things that aren't going so well?
Yeah, she talks about failed attempts and things that feel like aren't going well. And then Glennon Doyle jumped in and said, what about this like really desperate sadness, this feeling of despair? And actually how she reframed it was, actually perhaps this is part of the fodder for that final injection of energy that will come when that moment of courage whether softly starts to express itself or starts to kind of just suddenly burst out, like enough of this sadness or despair or grief or whatever. But it's actually all part of the process of where the courage comes from. So I thought that was a really interesting reframe.
So interesting. Yeah. And what about, like, what does this teach us about power? So another of our enablers of courage and our courage compass is power. It's something that we can dip into. What does this teach us about power, about the type of power that can have influence, and any thoughts on that?
Again, I suppose on the face of it, right? It's like she's speaking truth. She's in a position of power in that moment, and in her role, obviously, and she's speaking truth to, what did they say? She locked eyes with the most powerful man on earth and spoke directly to him, right? So the absolute definition of speaking truth to power. But I think she balanced that with a really simple, clear message. And so there's power in the way that she communicated in that moment. And I suppose it's a combination of power and perspective. It's like, I'm just saying what the realities are right now for people that are that live here, that are part of our communities. And so I thought it was very simple. The language was really simple. There was no bells and whistles to it. And I thought that really added to it. I think there's huge power in that kind of communication style.
Yeah, and I love how she stayed true to her own communication and leadership styles. So, like, if we think about kind of leadership styles, I would kind of put her in the compassionate, inclusive leader, empathetic, very empathetic. So asking Donald Trump to think of the people in the country who are scared right now, like, that was something that he couldn't argue with. We know that there are people for whom your policies are scary, whether you mean it or not. People are scared. And like, he obviously has a very different style, very command and control. I would say very much a directive leader, from what I've observed of him from afar. But sometimes when we meet a leader, someone like that in the workplace that has a different style to us, we feel we have to match them. But she didn't do that at all. She stayed true to her own leadership styles and strengths, and I just thought that was really heartening to see that we don't have to change in order to be able to get our message across to people who might have a different style to us.
And I think, building on what you talked about, empathy there, the power of connection, and maybe one of the ahas that people have gotten from our model when we talk about power is we don't realize we have power, but if we have relationships and networks and we invest in our relationships and we keep the connections alive, there's huge power source in just that. And they talk about, and you'll probably be able to say this better, girls, but like, just this idea that, what's the opposite of empathy? It's very, black and white, blindfolds on, here's what we're doing. But what they were saying is that a lot of those actions that they're trying to do are really not listening to the humanity, and like all those. And that's what she did such a brilliant job of. She painted literally the picture of the person in the restaurant, the person working on the fields, and we know for a fact that everybody in that room is benefiting from all of those people. But she said, if we remain connected as a country, as the world, humans, that power of connection together as like a tribe of the human force, is powerful enough to stand up to that other kind of positional power, or somebody who's like creating policies or structures that are challenging those. So I think that's an interesting one. That's like group power source, isn't it?
Yeah. Connection as power. I love that. So will we do a final kind of takeaway for our viewers?
Cathy, You were going to say something there.
I was just going to say that I thought what was interesting is another power source that she leaned on was like, she's like, I stayed in my lane. So from like my expertise, my identity, so she liked that with the communication style. She wasn't trying to be someone else. She very much spoke from where she's at. And the thing I think that brings up for me, and I think is important for everybody when we're thinking about courage, is like, you don't need anything else. It's already there. Like, so recognizing what's available to you and thinking about your experiences, and it's all there. And sometimes we think, oh, if only I had this one other thing, if only I did this one other thing, then I'd be ready. It's actually all there.
I love that, Cathy.
Thanks, Cathy. Yeah.
I think my takeaway is that we talk about like, okay, jumping off the diving board, like she did, and there were real ramifications, public, like millions. We're talking like there could be no bigger consequence than standing up to the President of the United States. So what I loved about it was there she was talking about it amongst friends, amongst people with really deep intellectual curiosity, and with her. So okay, sure, if we're courageous and we do something and we fall and there are terrible consequences, we'll find our tribe, we'll find our people, we'll connect, we'll discuss, we will take it apart. And now, as you said, she was already writing this book about courage, but now she's writing it for young adults and children as well, because it's like, oh, you didn't even realize that you were about to do this before you were writing this book. So I just feel like it's a very hopeful message of, yeah, of course there'll be consequences and you'll survive.
Yeah. And I think like my takeaway is kind of a combination of both of you, what you've said there, that idea of these courageous habits over time, and recognizing where we are being courageous in a perceived smaller way in our lives. Where do we stand up for what's right? Where do we kind of lean more into our purpose? And recognizing that and knowing that's the muscle, or that's the skill that we need to work on and to continue to build as we move through life, and that will enable us then to be ready and fit when the opportunity comes up for us to have our Mariann Budde moment. So listen, thank you so much, Niamh and Cathy, and thank you to everyone who's listening. We want to let you know that we're going to be exhibiting at the Learning and Development Institute conference on the 19th of November at Croke Park. So please, if you're going along to that event, come and say hello to us. We would love to see you. Check out our website, thecourageproject.ie, and follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, and we're on Facebook. And we will see you next time.
Thanks so much, Carol, Cathy.
Bye, guys.
Bye.